Coming up on this episode, I sit down with the three men who are about to be ordained as priests for the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston to talk about their vocation stories and their callings, as well as what they're most looking forward to about their priestly ministry. Welcome to Around the Archdiocese.
Sharing information, insights, and stories about our Catholic faith from across the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston, you're listening to Around the Archdiocese. Here's your host, Sean O'Driscoll.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us for another episode. This week, I'm going to share with you a conversation that I was blessed to have recently with Deacons David Ramirez, Luis Armas, and Viet Nguyen, three men who will be ordained to the priesthood for the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston, coming up on Saturday, June 1st at 10 a.m. at the Co-Cathedral of the Sacred Heart in downtown Houston. We shared about their vocation stories, their calling to the priesthood, what they're most looking forward to about their priestly ministry, and how they hope God is able to use them to make His presence more fully known right here in our Archdiocese. The ordination Mass will be live streamed on both the Archdiocesan website and on our social media channels, and we'll have all the links to that in the show notes for this episode. So, without further ado, let's start the show. So the first obvious question to ask is your vocation story. And I know you probably have a short version and a long version, but we'll start with you, Deacon Luis. When did you know that either you wanted to be a priest or that God was calling you to the priesthood?
It was at my first retreat at Holy Name Retreat Center with the Passionists. I had never done a retreat before, so it was my first time really getting to do adoration. And that night that we arrived, I took my Bible, went into the chapel, and just randomly opened up the Bible to Jeremiah chapter 1. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, I consecrated you to be a prophet to the nations. And that really hit me, just that reality that God knows me. And so I sat there a little bit with it, and then just in prayer was telling the Lord, like, I was really frustrated with my life. I didn't know where to go from that. I had just finished playing college baseball. So everything was geared towards baseball, and then leaving that, I didn't know what to do. And so this retreat was, I guess, my way to be able to start over, see, or at least see what else was out there in this life. After I read that passage, I asked the Lord, what is it that you want me to do? And I closed my eyes and I saw myself dressed like this, literally with clerical shirt and everything. And then I saw myself dressed like a priest about to celebrate Mass at my home parish. And then I saw myself leaning over and kissing the altar like Father does when he processes in. And as I was kissing and then rising up, I opened my eyes. I was back in the chapel and I was like, Lord, are you serious? This is what you want me to do? And yeah, after giving him all these excuses, all the reasons why he's got the wrong guy, why I'm unworthy, all that good stuff. At some point I sat there and I was just like, all right, Lord, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it. But you have to lead me because I have no idea where I'm going with this. And here I am. You still leading me?
I love how retreats give us that opportunity to kind of break away and put everything aside and really just focus on God. Deacon Viet.
Yes.
Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I was born and raised here in Houston. My parents are refugees from Vietnam. They were the boat people that were smuggled out and came here. And so born and raised here in Southwest Houston, Alief area. And I was always part of the big Vietnamese community that's over there in Southwest Houston. And so grew up public school kid myself, went to A&M University to study biology. And even up through then, I was very kind of lukewarm in terms of my faith. And it wasn't until I was really, I worked as a dental hygienist for about 5 years. And kind of during the early part of that, I had been dating, and there were issues within myself and issues within our relationship with my ex that really caused us to go on a break. There were some strains, some sins, and some addictions within my own life also. But after we went on a break, after about 3.5 years of dating, she was diagnosed with cancer, ovarian cancer, and she died at the age of 30. So her death really was kind of a trigger point of many things happening. First of all, I was examining how I was approaching dating in general, how I was as a man, the things that I was involved in, the things I was, the sins in which I had been struggling with at that moment, did not allow me to love her in the way that all women deserve to be loved, with the full self-sacrificial way. And so I was determined to, okay, if I'm going to date again, I'm going to do it right. It's going to be with a holy Catholic woman. And we're going to, have a chaste relationship and all that good stuff. So I realized that, okay, if I'm going to be worthy of such, a holy woman, I had to be a holy man myself to be worthy of such a good woman. So I started going to daily mass, partially because I was mourning her death also. So I went to daily mass, started getting more involved with RCA, started teaching RCA actually. Found a lot of joy in teaching the faith, learning more about my faith also at the same time. And also I got involved with the young adults group too. Partially to learn my faith also, but also there were a lot of beautiful women there at the young adults group also. So I was like, okay, good place to find them.
That's a good draw. Find a good Catholic woman.
Yeah. So during this, God helped me kind of get past and be free of some of my the various the addiction that I was struggling with myself, and all throughout this time, there was also a yearning that was growing in my heart, in which me working as a dental hygienist, it's a great job and everything, pays really well. But there was a yearning of like, there has to be more to life than this, especially with the death of my ex in mind, her dying at 30. My thought was like, man, so this, after all this schooling, all this work, just work and then you just earn money and then you spend money and then you earn money again and then do that again until you die. It's like, is that it to life? There has to be more to life. So there was that yearning, that restlessness that Augustine says that can only be found by resting in God. And so all this kind of came together. And then I went to a Cafe Catholica, I think I want to say this is like in 2017, I believe. Father TJ was a celebrant of one of the masses there. And he gave out a call to vocation saying that, hey, let's, if you're a young adult, young man or woman, if you're single, please consider the religious life, the priesthood. And at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. I've been doing all this. I've been finding a lot of joy in the church. And, I've had some friends who entered the seminary before and they were in there. And I was like, these guys aren't like weird guys, losers who couldn't get dates and then therefore defaulted to becoming priests. They were like good guys. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a try. So started going to a lot of discernment retreats. And one of probably the aha moment that I could probably point out to is kind of reading the How to Save 1,000 Souls. And that book was just great. I've never read a book so quickly because everything I was reading was everything was clicking with me so well. And it spoke to that yearning that I had in my heart. And honestly, it was a yearning to like do something that was worth doing. Because again, I had death in mind. I was like, I wanted to do something. I mean, cleaning teeth is great. Don't get me wrong. But I want to do something that's worth my life. And one of the best things that I liked about dental hygiene was the people. Actually, cleaning teeth is great, but for me, getting to know the patients, seeing them once every 6 months, following their lives, that's what I found the most joy out of that job. So part of it is also like priesthood was that, like to be part of people's lives, but I get to do it for my entire life. I think that's so awesome. But yeah, so I applied and it's been the best 7 years of my life. The structure, the prayer, all that has been wonderful. Yeah.
We have the headline now for your clip now. It's from cleaning teeth to cleaning souls.
Oh, let's go.
For real.
For real.
See, that's why we're in communications. This is what we do.
Just like that. Yes, like it's amazing.
It came up 2 minutes ago. I've been holding on to that.
It's like, finally, I get to sing.
That's a good one. I've thought of it like that too. Yeah.
No, that's really awesome. I think it's beautiful how you don't start with. So I went to Cafe Catholica, and Father TJ said that it was in fact through the dating and through those relationships and trying to understand, okay, what do I want? It was through those experiences of that you came to a deeper understanding of, okay, it's not just what I want. It's not just where I think I should be. Being able to share that, first of all, thank you for sharing that. It's a very personal story, obviously. But I think so many other young men can connect with that of, I think I know what I want and I think this is it. But have we really taken the time to discern really what he wants for us? Deacon David.
Sure. So I'm the oldest of four, and I was raised by a single mother. And that's what, that's a big component of my story, because my mother found her strength to be able to be a mother of four on her own through her faith. And so since I was little, I can remember her focus on forming us in the faith, passing this treasure on to us. She would say that, listen, I don't have money to hand on to you guys. I give you what's most valuable to me, which is my faith. And she would raise us telling us, listen, Dad's not here, but Jesus is our dad. God will take care of us. God will provide for us. He will see us through all of this. And so she made an effort to take us to Mass regularly and to confession, to adoration. She would help me be able to go and serve at Mass often, which is a big component as well to helping my discernment, to be able to be so close to the altar and to be able to serve at Mass. And I was that little kid that liked to play Mass too. So I would make my little sister be the altar server. My mom would sing and then be the congregation and the potato chips and the whole 9 yards. It was great. And so I wanted to be a priest since I was little, but it was the moment that I can think of being the moment was about 7th or 8th grade, actually. So I wanted to be a priest basically most of my childhood, in which I just remember having a moment one day in which I realized, Lord, this is what I want to do. I want to be a priest. I want to be a priest. So the rest of middle school, all of high school, and it was public school too. We didn't go to a Catholic school. It was all public school. And I just focused on that. I want to go to seminary. I want to go to be a priest. And I couldn't put words to it, but it was the reality of just seeing the priest at Mass and thinking, I want to do that. I want to do what he's doing. To be able to have this man who represents God to his people, this man who somebody's sad, they'll go to Father. Somebody's excited about something, they'll go and share it to Father. Somebody wants to share an important part of the family's life, they go to Father. And Father becomes so intimately involved in the lives of the people of the parish. And just seeing that really moved me. And like, I want that. I want to be so intimately involved in people's lives, to bring the Lord into their lives, into the midst of the world and the midst of their lives, whatever's going on. And the sacraments, of course, just like Mass, just to be able to celebrate Mass, turn bread into the body of Jesus, confessions, being able to be part of such big moments of people's lives. And so all through high school, I focused on that. Just big prayer, serving at Mass. And then I got really involved in the school orchestra. I played the cello. And so then music and serving at Mass were the most formative aspects of my growing up. And then, of course, at home, being able to be taught the faith by mom, and being able to be taught how to pray, how to see the Lord as Father, God as a Father who wants to be involved in his people's lives, and who wants to walk with his children in all times, at all places. And being able to bring that to them, being able to live that out and reflect that through my life to God's people. That here's God who wants to be Father and who wants to walk with his people, who wants to be involved in his children's lives, and wants to be let in. And to be able to do that through the sacraments and with my life, that was a big, that is a big driving force. I entered the seminary, not straight out of high school, but I went to the University of Houston for a year. And then I entered seminary back in 2019. So 9 years later, and here we are.
being raised by a single mother, not having an earthly father there present while you were being raised, what does it mean to think that others are going to call you father, that you're going to be a spiritual father to others? How does that hit for you?
It's huge. And it really is. I remember first summer of seminary, and we had gone to a seminarian outing with the vocations director, and an older seminarian asked a couple of us, what aspect of God would you like to reflect through your priesthood? And one of the first things, if not the first thing that came to mind, was his fatherhood. God is dad, and God wants to be a father to his children, and for us to trust him, to see him, to love him, to know him as the loving father that he is. And so to be able to live that out myself, I actually had a priest who once told me, and I agree kind of a little bit with his concern, in which he asked me, he presented his concern of how can I be a father to many if I didn't have somebody there present reflecting that fatherhood to others, right? And so while I understand it, I've also lived out and experienced very tangibly God's involvement in our lives as Father, how he has provided for us, taking care of us. How can you explain that, 4 kids without dad at home and somehow still practicing the faith, trying to be faithful, trying to follow the Lord? We didn't go hungry. We didn't go homeless. Mom got sick at some point, and so she wasn't able to hold a steady job, and the Lord still provided in the midst of that. And that reality of, I know what I did not have growing up, and to be able to give that to others, and to actually to be able to live it out from a place of now actually being able to be for others. It's huge. It's huge. The gift is to be able to think of that reality that one day I will be able to be a dad to so many, being able to reflect God's fatherhood to so many, and to be able to take care of his children.
You guys have been through all these years of schooling, study, prayer, preparation. These are not easy years. Looking back, knowing everything you've had to go through, all the work, what was it like? I mean, what are your memories? What are you going to take away from your time at seminary? I know a question people always ask is, how do you balance personal life, just being a man in today's society with, okay, but I have to be at chapel at this time, and we eat at this time, and we have class at this time. How do you balance that in an all-male environment like the seminary?
I mean, I would say starting off, I had the idea that I had to fit a certain mold if I wanted to be a seminarian. So I had to let go of a lot of things that I previously, like things like baseball, going to the gym and things like that. And I figured, most of the time I'm going to be in the classroom or the chapel. So just got to learn how to be a nerd. But when I entered seminary, and even a couple of retreats before, and I started to get to know some of the seminarians, and I realized, these are actually normal guys. That's pretty good. So I can be myself. But even then, so I think the biggest challenge with that was, how do you stay yourself while at the same time knowing that you do need to fix things, that you do need to be formed to be the man that God is calling you to be. In this case, to be the priest that he's calling you to be. And I mean, it's part of the wisdom of the church, right? Is that's why you get formed with other men, because they help you. They do shape you. They do, they help you in a way follow the Lord's path in the way that the conversations that we have, the time that we spend together, knowing that we're as men going into this, all for his greater glory, and ultimately for this amazing gift that is the priesthood. So I mean, it's and I guess to use the analogy of the battlefield, right? That you're fighting, and that you know that these other guys are in the battlefield with you. And as long as we remain focused, centered on and following who our commander is, being the Lord himself, I mean, we're going to make it through. And also, I guess part of that is just accepting that the differences that I may have, the uniqueness of that is me, is actually a gift given to me by God. And God wants to be able to use that to be able to reveal his love, his mercy, his goodness to his people. And that he can use that through a guy like me, which is to this day still blows my mind.
And I think to add on to that, I think another beauty of seminary and why it takes so long to form a man is that a man needs time to be able to go from this position of this place of, I'm a guy who does this. I'm a guy who does the prayer. I'm a guy who does the mass at this time, who does the studies at this time, to be able to come to a point of like, me as I am, this is just who I am. So I'm a guy who prays. I'm a guy who wakes up in the morning and who looks forward to offering the morning prayer for the church in the name of the church. I am a man who God has called to celebrate Mass, right? That is not just a thing that I do in the schedule, but like, this is who I am. In the person of Christ, I will offer the sacrifice for love of my people. And it's not just something that's imposed on the schedule, but it's something that like I live for, and it's part of my life. It's part of who I am. And so it's this almost like breaking down to then build back up into this man that now is now living as Christ and does these things naturally out of who he is and how he lives. Because as another Christ, even my free time, it's like I'm a man that lives for others. If I'm totally changed and ordained to be another Christ, I am a man who lives now for others. And every second of every day is a man who looks how to give himself to others and to offer his life, even the smallest of ways, up to celebrating the holy sacrifice of the Mass every day for the sake of the other. And this is a call for all of us, right? This is what love is, to like learn how to live for the other, but in a special way in this life, to love as Christ did. And not just like as my job, but it is what I do all the time. This doesn't mean that I'm not going to have moments of rest and relaxation. I'm going to play music. I'm going to hang out with friends, like going to a coffee shop and going to hang out and drinking some coffee and just talking about whatever great things are going on, or even just vent or talk about the difficult things. But it's all one now. And this is part of my life, and this is what I do. And this is my free time. I love how as somebody had asked JP2, is like, what do you do on your free time? And he responds with, well, all my time is free. And so as a man now configured to Christ, I live for others and I sacrifice myself for others as Christ did every second of every day in whatever it is that I'm doing. And so the seminary formation does that. I heard somebody had told me about a homily that a priest had given once, talking about what he had learned in seminary. And his response was, in seminary, I learned to die. It's every day getting up and saying, Lord, one more day, I offer my life for you, to you, for your people. And of course, you don't see that in the midst of the everyday of seminary life. You're getting up to go to philosophy classes or theology classes, to go to morning prayer, to whatever it is that you're doing throughout the day. But it's in the small things, you are disciplining your mind, your heart, your body to say yes one more day, one more time, to then be able to give the big yes one day when you're about to prostrate before God Almighty, to be ordained, to be configured to his Son, Jesus Christ. So the small yeses every day that build up to those great big yeses in which you willingly lay down your life in the way that Christ did for the sake of others. And that becomes our life. And this is what we do.
We talked a little bit before we started recording. You guys mentioned where you did your pastoral year. And I guess start with Deacon Viet. Where did you do your pastoral year, and what was your biggest takeaway from that experience?
Yeah, so I did my pastoral year at Galveston with Holy Family Parish with Father Jude, who's over there, and Father Stephen and Father Jorge, who's since moved to another parish. But it was a wonderful experience to me. It's Galveston was a part of the Archdiocese in which I had not too much experience to. Just sometimes I would just go to the beach as a kid there, but getting to know the community there and being part of such a historic parish or group of churches was just a huge honor for me. I think the biggest takeaway was just the sense of family and community and history that everyone had there. Because I was surrounded by families who had generations of friendships with each other, and as someone who's born and raised here in the middle of Houston, everyone's so transient. Everyone moves around. You barely know your neighbor. So to be able to see what a community can be like when generations know each other, I think that's just so beautiful. So that's probably the biggest takeaway that I got from Galveston, my time there.
Yeah. Deacon Luis, where did you do your pastoral year?
I was at St. Faustino with Father Dad. That was a unique experience in itself too, because the parish still doesn't have a church. So we're using the community center for church and offices. And at the time I was there, they still didn't have the other building that they have now. And so I was their first pastoral year guy. So it was an interesting experience to see how Father Dad was going to, I guess, use me, how he's going to form me. Overall, it was definitely, I would say, the greatest year of my time in seminary. Just being able to be with the families, because you get to see a little bit of what your priesthood will look like that year, in my opinion. The way that you take advantage of the day, with Mass, but being with families, the few times that I was able to give talks and stuff like that, and just seeing myself being able to one day preach, and just in different ways that they, because even as a seminarian, but even more as a priest, right? People are willing to be vulnerable to a priest because they do see the fatherhood aspect of him. They're able to trust him because of who it is that he represents, and just the man that he is too, right? Like that. Yeah, in my case that I've given all my trust to the Lord. And so, and just to see how in different ways you can impact / be involved in these different families and families that I never would have expected to be involved with. It's amazing to see how the love that you offer to your people is able to be given back to you in response in many ways that at least I didn't think possible. The Lord never ceases to amaze. And it's amazing to see in that sense how much, as long as I keep doing his will, as long as I keep following his path, as long as I keep surrendered to him day in and day out, knowing that I live for him and not just for myself, the Lord does reward. It was definitely a great experience, and it gave me a lot more motivation to be able to come back to seminary, finish off strong, and get ready to get back out there.
Yeah, we hear that often from our seminarians, that being able to get out with the people, to be able to shadow, a priest, and kind of get a sense of, okay, I know what I'm preparing to do theoretically, but then to get out there and see it live day to day, not just the work with the people, but to actually see what a priest goes through. We're used to seeing them 10 minutes before Mass, and then they shake hands after Mass, and then they disappear back to either the sacristy or back to their home. But to actually be a part of the full life of the parish is such an amazing opportunity, and so integral to the formation and your time in seminary. Deacon David, where did you do your pastoral year?
Sure. I did my pastoral year at Saints Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, Friends of Jesus Catholic Church in Kingwood.
The longest name of a church in our diocese.
So St. Martha's with Father TJ. And it was absolutely the most amazing, joyful, life-giving, formative year of my life, really. It would, including and not including seminary, the chance to actually live the life, to be out there. There was a lot of struggles at the beginning, a lot of the being able to trust that I could do it, trust in the Lord that he would give me the grace to be able to do it. Battling the comparisons. I'm not as that priest. I'm not going at that priest, or athletic as that guy, or as cool as the other guy. And then trusting that, Lord, you chose me, and you'll give me the grace to be able to do this if you actually want me to. And so slowly but surely, day by day, kind of again saying yes one more time, and then being able to learn how to be totally generous in my saying yes to the smallest of things, even in the smallest of things, and seeing how the Lord will use you to love his people. And one of the biggest experiences that I had, it actually, I came to realize it as I was explaining it to somebody else, and the celibacy of the priest, and how, and the consecrated man, and how the Lord uses a celibate heart to love his people, and then how the people will respond in love back, and how this heart that was going to love my wife and my children and my family is offered up to the Lord. And then he fills it with his love for his people. And then you get to go and say yes and love freely and love totally and love generously. And hence you're able to get invited into these most intimate moments in people's lives, in very vulnerable places, and how people will trust you because you show them the love of the Lord that he has filled your heart with. And so just the joy that comes from that encounter, from that exchange of the love of, and in that position, and as a priest, you basically get front row seats to this most like miraculous and beautiful moments of grace and encounter between God and his people, and getting a chance to live that out as a Martha's during that year, even as a seminarian. And I can't wait to be able to experience it as a priest with sacraments not get involved. Now it's actually Jesus Christ himself that's bringing, like touching the soul directly through the sacraments. Even as a seminarian, I got a chance to live that, and being able to be overwhelmed time and time again by the love of the people, by the care and the generosity, by the love of the kids, the teens. I got a chance to get involved a lot with faith formation, catechesis, and from the little ones up to high schoolers, and like every step of the way, and being able to meet them and have fun with them and encounter them and form some good relationships with them. It was such a beautiful gift that I'm so grateful for. And it was definitely a year of just like affirmation of and confirmation of vocation, my love for the Lord, my love for the people, my love for the diocesan priesthood, so the parish life. And I left there with a yes, 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 Lord. Like I'm so ready. Say, get me ordained and let me get to work. It was just so overwhelmingly just joyful and love filled, and so much growth, very challenging. Having to learn as well to get out of my comfort in what's known to me for the sake, again, that laying down your life for the sake of the other, for God willing, their good, and seeing how you are so fed and loved and filled with grace and with life and with God's goodness as you say yes. And you yourself end up receiving so much as well that you don't even expect.
And both you and Deacon Luis had the benefit of both of your pastors during those pastoral years had previously served as directors of the Office of Vocations.
That's what
Father TJ and Father Dad, both.
So that was very helpful as well in that.
Looking to your day of ordination, what are you most looking forward to on that day at that liturgy? What gets you the most excited?
Yeah. I can't wait to hear confessions.
Really?
And to be able to, because like, kind of like what David was talking about, representing the fatherhood of God, I want to represent his mercy. To be able to know that you can always approach me with a contrite heart and receive forgiveness. That's beautiful. What a beautiful exchange. Right. And like, and you like just going personally too, right? Like even in the midst of my sinfulness and stuff, and recognizing how merciful the Lord has been to me on my entire life, but even specifically during seminary formation, to be able to know that like this person can come to me with their baggage of sins and go out empty-handed, full of the Lord's love. Sign me up.
I think for me, it's going to have to be offering the sacrifice of the Mass and lifting the body of Christ up, and at the same time, completely offering myself fully, my body, my soul, to the people of God, to God himself, to make that complete gift, to be just that full gift. I'm looking really forward to that.
Honestly, just to be there, to actually get ordained, to be able to be in the midst of the joy of the people, because there's a joy in the people, like in the local church, of the answered prayers, And that hope and trust that the Lord is still answering prayers. The Lord is still taking care of his people. The Lord is still providing those ministers that will bring the Holy Eucharist and forgiveness of God to them. Yeah, there's just like the joy that is the gratitude of the people of God for the fact that God is still taking care of us by providing more ministers. And it's not like the individuals, David, Viet, Luis, but it's the fact that like he's still providing just priests to take care of us. And the joy that's felt as the church gathers together to pray and thank God for that. And just to be able to rejoice with them in that, of this gift, right? Because this is a gift for us.
Yeah.
That's something that like I learned during that year in which Dad at that point, as a vocation director, asked me to wait before entering seminary. I was so ready to enter seminary. And then he said, just go to college for a year. And I was like heartbroken. I was like, Lord, you need priests and I want to be a priest. And somehow that equals no. How does that make sense? And then now now looking back and realizing, understanding, no, like God doesn't need you. This is a gift. This calling is a gift. And so he knows when you're ready for it. And he knows when you're ready to receive it fully. So this for us is a gift as well. Just to be able to stand before God and thank him along with the people. And then of course, the sacraments. It's just like giving the first priestly blessing. It's like, it's almost that gift for us to be able to thank the people of God by bringing them God's blessing. It's thanking them like for all their prayers, for all their support, for everything that they've done for us. The people that we've met, summer one of seminary, or only a few months ago, so many people all throughout the journey that have been so devoted and so faithful and so dedicated to pray for us and care for us and pray to God for our perseverance and providing for us in some way, shape, or form to come at that moment and say, thank you. Look, thank you for what you've done for us. And God using me to bring his blessing. It's just, oh my gosh. So yeah. So excited for that moment.
As people are getting to know you and praying for you as you enter these final days of preparation for your ordination to the priesthood, what can we pray for you specifically?
I would say, for me personally, that I continue to remain open to the graces that the Lord wants to give me, that I continue to be formed to be the priest that he's calling me to be, to serve the people he's calling me to serve, especially in regards to the Hispanic community, the English community, because I know it's easy to get spread out. And so to be able to have the health, the energy to keep going. And overall, just knowing that, like, yeah, that it's not about me, it's about him. That with him, all things are possible. Without him, we can do nothing.
I think a lot of us will say the same thing too. But in addition to that, just also pray for, just to be able to, especially as we're laying down there on the marble floor, to really fully give ourselves completely without holding anything back, and to always do that. Especially as we enter into priesthood, we may be facing with our own kind of struggles or insecurities and whatnot. But to even in the midst of it, to just give ourselves completely. That's just to pray for the fullness of the sacrifice in which we're entering into.
For the grace to remain faithful, to be able to continue to say yes every single day, the rest of our lives, with an open heart, to be able to love God totally and be able to love his people totally, and to learn to get out of the way, to allow ourselves to be vessels that he can use, those broken vessels that he can use to bring his grace to his people, and to be able to get out of the way and let him use us for his work.
Anything else you guys feel like you wanted to say?
No, I guess just in general, just gratitude in terms of, you've been in for 9 years, 7 years for Luis and I. Just all the from day one as a seminarian, just the flood of support, the flood of like the Sarah clubs, the Knights of Columbus. Like, little do we know that we're going to be adopted by so many like spiritual mothers and fathers.
All the individuals after Mass.
All the families that we've gotten to know.
Yeah. And it's just those things where it's like, wow, thank you. Like, thank you for everyone's continued support. It's very humbling, and it definitely challenges us. And for us, like, okay, now it's our time to give. I mean, we've always been given generously to others, but even more so now. Like, we've been given so much, and in prayers and material support. Like, let us be now, burned up as an offering for everyone else.
To love back.
To love back and to strive for that holiness that the people of God deserve.
I would, in terms of gratitude, I would also be grateful for formation.
Yeah.
Both at St. Joseph's University in Louisiana or college seminary in Louisiana and here at St. Mary's. Just overall, the examples that I had in terms of what a priest looks like, how these men love, the wisdom that they shared with me personally, but with all of us there at St. Mary's. It's not an easy job. And so to see that they have been doing it faithfully for the length of time that they have, and yeah, man, they're a great bunch of men. I hope to be able to be as good as priests as these men are.
And the cool thing is that they're a joyful priests too.
Yes.
Like, to see them happy after so many decades of priesthood, it gives us a lot of hope. It's like, yeah, this is a great life we're entering into.
Yeah.
Like the joy that they have. So
the gratitude, absolutely. Just say thank you. Thank you for the love and the care and the support, the many prayers, the conversations, the being allowed in, to be welcomed into families, to their homes, into their lives, and all the support from the very beginning. Just so grateful to have received that through so many years and to be inspired, because we are overwhelmed with the generosity, the love of God's people. And I'm challenged and inspired. We are challenged and inspired to love in the same way back. And once ordained a priest, to be able to give our lives totally to love back with just the same fervor and openness and generosity as we have received all throughout this time.
And a huge thank you to Deacons David, Viet, and Luis for joining me for this conversation. In the midst of finishing their final classes in their final year at seminary, preparing for the ordination mass, and preparing for their first priestly assignment, we really are grateful that they took this time to share their stories with us. As we said, the ordination mass will be live streamed on the Archdiocesan website and through our social media channels coming up on Saturday, June 1st at 10 a.m., live from the Co-Cathedral of the Sacred Heart in downtown Houston. Please keep these three men and all the clergy in your prayers. And just as important, continue to pray for vocations to the priesthood and religious life. And if you or someone you know is discerning a call to the priesthood or religious life, we invite you to learn more by contacting the Archdiocesan Office of Vocations. You can find them online at houstonvocations.com. And, as always, if you'd like to learn more about the ministries and offices of the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston, you can find us online at archgh.org. That's archgh.org. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon, here on Around the Archdiocese.